So today we are going to discuss about LGBTQIA plus community. What is this and how it is related to the psychiatry and psychosexual issues. The relevance of topic is certain uh, transgender communities were considered as psychiatrically ill and also considered uh, have criminalizing imposition because of some act, and these were included in the psychiatric disorder also in both ICD-10 and DSM-4. But some changes are there for the last 10 to 20 years. Some developments are there. We will learn what is LGBTQ orientation and the psychiatric aspect of it. LGBTQ stands for L for lesbian, G for gay, then bisexual, transgender, queer or questioning, intersex, asexual, and plus is more. These terms are used to describe the person's sexual orientation or gender identity. One by one, we will go through the all acronyms. L for lesbian is a women to women aligned person who is attracted to only people of the same similar gender. G for gay usually refer to men and men aligned individuals, but lesbians can also be referred to as gay. The use of term gay became more popular during the 1970s. Bisexual is which indicates an attraction to all genders, whether it is male or female. The recognition of bisexual individual is important since there have been periods when people who identify as bi have been misunderstood as being gay. So they have attraction towards both the genders and may be considered as gay, but it is not. Bisexuality has included transgender, binary and non-binary individuals since the release of the Bisexual Manifesto in 1990. So in transsexual, uh, the people experience a gender identity that is inconsistent, and in addition to it, they desire to permanently transform or transition to the sex or gender with which they identify themselves. For example, a boy is feeling like girl. If they wish to or want to change permanently to the that sex is known as transsexual. There is a term gender dysphoria. A medical diagnosis of gender dysphoria can be made if person experiences marked and persistent incongruence. This is now in the scene in ICD-11 and DSM-5. We will learn about the developments in ICD-11 and DSM-5 later in the slides. The queer or questioning. This is an umbrella term uh, which defines as whoever is having identify themselves as of other sex, who is not anyone who is not non-cisgender or heterosexual. So it includes the lesbian, gay, asexual and transgender as a umbrella term for their question of their identity. Intersex is for the biological male and female who is not assigned XX or XY. There may be genetic variations like XXX, XXY, etc. And biologically they do not fit into the male and female. Their chromosome patterns, gonads, or genitals do not fit typically in binary notions of male and female. Asexuals are who has little or no sexual attraction. They have little or no sexual attraction. However, they may experience romantic attraction towards any orientation. Plus is used to signify all the gender identities and sexual orientations that are not specifically covered by the other five initials of LGBTQIA. No. For an example, two spirits, pan-indigenous, uh, maybe the different identity patterns which is not included in the first five terms. So LGBTQ has various variations in acronyms. For example, LGBTIQ, only A and I is not included, A and plus is not included. LGBTQIP2SAA. It includes questioning, pansexual, two spirits, androgynous, additional to the LGBTQIA. There are variations. So regarding the history of the acronym is, so it is where the variety of orientation and identities are there. So previously there are few or less identities were there like gay or lesbian, but LGBTQI is more inclusive of other identities also, and the acronym is an evolving process. It may change in future also. For example, bisexual as defined by the Sigmund Freud originally meant a person was both a man and woman. Being both a man and woman is now referred to as bigender. So bisexual is turned into bigender. This is the evolution of the term and acronyms. The plus matters because of the same reason. Some of the orientation may not be included in the LGBTQ term. So this is for other persons who have identified themselves as a some other certain kind of uh, gender identities who may be inclusive of the same community. So there are related terms also like cisgender. Cisgender means the gender associated with the sex they were assigned at birth. Means XY identifies herself as female and XX identifies herself as female and XY as male. So this is a common pattern, cisgender. Non-binary means a person whose gender identity is neither exclusive women or men. Men. This is an umbrella term. And gender non-conforming also like non-binary. Pansexuality and omnisexuality is for the people who feel attracted to other people regardless of their biological sex, gender and gender identity. So where is the pride hidden in this community? So the issues were run along for years to identify themselves and to be inclusive in the general society, and they should be acknowledged, accepted and respected. And in some countries this is there, but in some countries this is considered as a crime, and this is the where the crime this is considered as crime are located in the Middle East, Africa and Asia mostly. In 11 countries the death penalty is imposed or is at least a possibility for same sex sexual activities. So, however, criminalization is not the only reason why many LGBTQ people cannot express their sexual orientation. There are societal rule and connotation and notions are there regarding them, and what they feel like they are neglected, discriminated, and so many uh, the things are being happened to them because of their gender identification. So, where we are regarding the acceptance of the homosexuality. So, here are the few points. So, it is higher in the Western European countries like Canada and Australia. Among these countries, over 80% of respondents taking part in recent survey believed that homosexuality should be accepted by the society. So the people who are more in the favor of accepting them uh, are seen to have left-wing ideologies, are more educated, and who are not strictly very religious. Over the last year, there has been positive change in the acceptance homosexuality in the world. Amongst 27 countries surveyed, South Africa and India recorded the highest increase in the acceptance of homosexuality in the society. So, increase in uh, the pattern is more seen in the South Africa and India. Not only the South Africa, the countries like Tunisia, Nigeria, and Kenya recorded an increase in the acceptance as well. So acceptance is increasing, but this is not the case scenario that they are openly inclusive into the society and they are not liable for exclusion and violence because of their orientation. Between these countries, Nigeria remains one of the most dangerous countries for the LGBTQ people in the world. In Spain, people are more likely to support a family. Another study conducted in Singapore shows that about half of the respondents said they would be likely to react negatively to a close family member coming out. In Japan, most LGBTQ people said they have not disclosed their sexual orientation. So things are 50-50, hai na? We are accepting it and there is a hitch in the expression of their gender identity because of the issues. So the term acronym LGBTQIA plus is there and when to and how to use it. This is an umbrella term. Every person belongs to this community should not be addressed like LGBTQIA. If the person is transgender, one should use the X is transgender, not the X is LGBTQIA plus. The impact is raising the visibility of the marginalized group. The visibility of this group is now more. They have more in number because of the they have included in the one term of their different orientation. So they are not scattered, but they still face considerable homophobia and discrimination. Harassment, bullying, and workplace discrimination are not uncommon. In the impact, one advantage of utilizing a unified terminology is the ability to engage in political advocacy. Social solidarity is there between this community. Unifying terms like LGBTQIA+ can help people feel connected to a larger group. There are actually many individual communities made up of diverse individuals. These communities have something in common, but each identity has its own unique experience and needs, and they are now included in the one term. The challenges are not everyone agrees, but the LGBT is still prevalent in use rather than of LGBTQIA. The four-letter acronym is simpler way. Some people find that it is the simpler way, but some people find left out because of the non-inclusiveness of QIA plus in the LGBT. Okay. So terminology is a continuous process of evolving. We are now at the LGBTQIA plus. The importance are to improve visibility of this community, recognition and acceptance, but still they continue to face discrimination and they are frequent target of social and economic marginalization as well as harassment and violence. What about the numbers? How many they are? According to a survey conducted in 27 countries, 7 out of 10 people identify as heterosexual. This means around 3% of respondents declare to be homosexual, gay, or of other uh, gender identification. है ना. Additionally, 1% are pansexual or omnisexual. This means attraction towards all the genders. In Indian perspective, if we go into the history during the Mughal Empire, a number of the pre-existing Delhi Sultanate laws were combined into the Fatwa-e-Alamgiri, mandating several types of punishment for homosexuality. This could include 50 lashes for slave, 100 free for a free infidel, or death by the stoning for a Muslim. In the British era, in 1884, a court of North India ruling on the prosecution of so-called as hijra or transgender, the court commented that physical examination of the accused revealed she had the marks of a habitual catamite and commended the police desire to check these disgusting practices. And after this, in 1871, the British labeled the hijra population as criminal tribe. So this was the thought during that era. What happens at that time also, the codification of criminalization of homosexual activity under the section 377, which stood for more than 70 years after Indian independence also. During the time, the Goa Inquisition, one prosecuted the capital crime of sodomy in Portuguese India, but this was for gay activity, but not for the lesbian activities. The British Empire criminalized anal sex and oral sex for both the gender identification under the section 377 of the Indian Penal Code. We will talk about the decriminalization of 377 also. So what about their rights in India? So LGBT people in India are afforded greater protection than those in many other Asian countries. So we are more forward regarding the LGBT people amongst the Asian countries. But still they face the social and legal difficulties not experienced by the non-LGBT people. According to the current scenario, there are no legal restrictions against gay sex or gay expressions. Same-sex couples have equal cohabitation rights, colloquially known as live-in relationships, is now recognized by the Honorable Court. However, India does not currently recognize same-sex marriage. Marriage and live-in relationship are two different things. Marriage is not recognized, but live-in is recognized. Some states protects traditional third gender population in South Asia through housing programs and offer welfare benefits, pension schemes and others. And there are approximately in India 4,80,000 transgender people as per the census 2011. So in the 2010s, LGBT people in India increasingly gained tolerance and acceptance, especially in large cities. So there are developments regarding their acceptance for the last 2 decades. So this is the very important about the NAS Foundation. The NAS Foundation Trust is an NGO that works on HIV/AIDS and sexual health, uh, and also for the people of different orientation and those who are impacted by HIV and AIDS. The foundation works for them, and the same foundation, it is a Delhi-based organization that has been a forefront of the battle against Section 377 of Indian Penal Code to decriminalize the Section 377. So it was the main petitioner, and the foundation found the code as a unconstitutional. In the same matter, the Delhi High Court observed that the point one is consensual sex amongst adult is legal, which includes even gay sex and sex among the same sexes. They said the law violates Article 14 of the Constitution, which guarantees the equality. Article 15, which prohibits discrimination on the ground of religion, race, caste, sex, and place of birth. Article 21 for protection of life and personal liberty. They have concluded that this should be decriminalized. But what happened then? Ministry of Home Affairs expressed its opposition to the decriminalization of homosexual activity, stating that in India homosexuality is seen as being immoral. So the central government reversed its instance on 28 February 2012, asserting that there was no legal error in decriminalizing homosexual activity. But in 2013, the Supreme Court set aside the 2009 Delhi High Court rule within its jurisdiction. Further, the same the Supreme Court of India dismissed the review petition filed by the central government, the NAS Foundation, and several others against its 11 December verdict on Section 377 by the High Court. The bench explained and concluded that while reading down the Section 377, the High Court overlooked that a minuscule fraction of country's population constitutes lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender people, and in more than 150 years past, less than 200% have been prosecuted for committing offence. This cannot be made a sound basis of declaring the section ultra vire Article 14, 15 and 21. On the basis of number of prosecutions and the cases, they have decided that and reversed the verdict of High Court. Again, the matter was taken to the National Assembly, and it was rejected by the Assembly by the vote of 71 and 24. Now what happens is, on 2nd February of 2016, the Supreme Court decided to review the criminalization of homosexual activity, and in 17, Supreme Court unanimously ruled that the right to individual privacy is an intrinsic and fundamental right under the Indian Constitution. The court also ruled that the person's sexual orientation is privacy issue, giving hopes to the LGBT activists that the court would soon strike down the 377. Now they were against their own decision. Finally, in 2018, the court unanimously ruled that Section 377 is unconstitutional and decriminalization of 377 was done. So this was the history of decriminalization of 377. What next is recognition of same-sex relationship. So as I have said, the live-in or cohabitation is allowed, but same-sex marriage is not recognized by the Indian law. Okay. By this law, the Uttarakhand High Court in 2020 acknowledged that while same-sex marriage may not be legal, cohabitation and live-in relationship are protected by the law. Here are a few points in the Article 15 which is in the favor of decriminalization of 377, but no need to read all the matter. So other things which are in the pursuit of this act is decriminalization and bullying in higher education of this community. In case of Navtej Singh Johar and Union of India, it bans discrimination based on the sexual orientation, and in other, discrimination on the basis of gender identity is constitutionally prohibited. But in military services, the thing is not in the favor of decriminalization of 377, and the bill was lapsed in the Lok Sabha. So transgender rights, for transgender rights, one have to define the definition of transgender person, and this is the definition of transgender person: one who is partly female or male, or combination of male and male, or neither female or nor male. In addition, person's gender must not match the gender assigned at birth, and includes trans men, trans women, person with intersex variation and gender queers, and person having socio-cultural identities such as Kinnar, Hijraz, Aravani and Jogta. So this is the legal definition of transgender uh, persons. So what happened after the verdict? So in 2014, they were declared socially and economically suppressed class entitled to reservations in the education and jobs, and mandates the recognition of third gender on official documents like voter ID card, passport, bank forms, and have started providing a third gender option in uh, legal documents or in the forms. So here is the bill regarding the Transgender Persons Protection of Right Bill, which was enacted in 2019 as Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act. Their rights are protected under the law. So here are the few examples. One has contested the election in in Tamil Nadu Legislative Assembly, and one gave the examination of TNPSC. So these are the outcomes. Some are working as advocate at the Honorable Supreme Court of India. Some are filmmakers, some are writers, some are authors. So because of this, they are more included in the society. So what we talked about till now is somewhat related to Indian with the psychiatry also. And after the verdict came in 2014, the Indian Psychiatric Society recognizes that there is no evidence to prove that homosexuality is unnatural. And finally, they said no evidence to substantiate the belief that homosexuality is a mental illness or a disease. And they also said in 2018, certain people are not cut out to be heterosexual, and we don't need to castigate them, we don't need to punish them, to ostracize them. Because this was included in the ICD-10. So after the verdict, they have stated that this is not the illness. So what is happening for the same-sex marriage? There is a survey by Ipsos, which is a surveying company, and they found that 44% of Indian people were in the favor of legalizing the same-sex marriage, and 14% of Indians were in support to allowing some kind of legal recognition of the couple. 18% opposed, and 25% were not in any opinion. So developments are the LGBT community. The issues are raised for the marriage and adoption rights, but Supreme Court held that it is the matter to be decided by Parliament, and judiciary cannot frame law on this subject. So it is under debate and under the development, the recognition of marriage. These are the summary of rights they have. Same-sex sexual activity is legal, yes. Equal age of consent, yes. Anti-discrimination laws in employment, it is yes. Anti-discrimination laws in provision of goods and service, yes. And same-sex marriage is no. Recognition of same-sex couple is yes, as live-in couple. Stepchild adoption by same-sex couple is no. Adoption by LGBTQ individual is yes. Joint adoption by same-sex couple is not allowed. International joint adoption by same-sex couple is not allowed. Access to in vitro fertilization for lesbian, it is allowed. Commercial surrogacy for this community is no. Altruistic surrogacy is no. Automatic parenthood on birth certificate for children of same-sex couple is no. Right to change legal gender is yes. Coverage for sex reassignment surgery is yes. Intersex minors protected from invasive surgical process, banned only in state of Tamil Nadu and pending in Delhi. Third gender option is yes. Anti-discrimination law covering gender identity and expression is yes. Trans women protected under Domestic Violence Act is yes. Homosexuality and transgenderism, which is related somewhat to psychiatry, is homosexuality is declassified as illness is yes. Transgenderism declassified as illness is yes. They are not allowed to serve in the army. Conversion therapy is banned. It is somewhere is allowed and somewhere is not. MSM allowed to donate blood? No. No. Male having sex with male. MSM is the short form of this. So coming to the psychiatric aspect, in ICD-10 we identified the gender identity disorder under which transsexualism is there, dual role transvestism, gender identity disorder of childhood, others and unspecified. Similarly in DSM-4, the gender identity disorder is recognized as a psychiatric illness. So this is the development in DSM on the timeline. When DSM-2 was there was no diagnostic category for gender incongruence. In DSM-3, transsexualism and other was included. In R, again they have included some and declassified some of the illness. In ICD-10, there is gender identity disorder of childhood is there as illness. Dual role transvestism, transsexualism was there. In DSM-4 TR, it was there. What happens in DSM-5 is it is replaced by gender dysphoria in adolescents and adults. Gender dysphoria in children, and in ICD-11 it is incongruence of gender in childhood, adulthood, or in the adolescence. So you can see that the term identity disorder is replaced as dysphoria and incongruence in ICD-11. What does it mean? We will discuss further in the presentation. So in the past, gender identity disorder was recognized disorder in psychiatry, which had many aspects of it like comorbidities and their classification, their diagnostic criteria, and the therapy is also treatment also suggested by the group of experts like psychotherapy, hormonal therapy, and sex reassignment surgeries. What happens in ICD-11? ICD-11 has replaced gender identity disorder as gender incongruence. It has many subtypes: gender incongruence of adolescence or adulthood, incongruence of childhood, and unspecified and others. So here are the terms: identity, congruence, and dysphoria. So one should understand what does it mean and how we recognize the disorder as congruence or dysphoria as per ICD-11 and DSM-5. So identity, you all know that identity is being male or female or something else is gender identity. Expression is how they express their identity by means of clothing, physical experience, and external presentation of the behavior. The incongruence is the person's marked and persistent experience of incompatibility between the person's gender identity and the gender expected of them based on their birth assigned sex. So, incongruence is somewhat discomfort and distress. And if this incongruence, this identity not accompanied by the distress and discomfort, if the identity is stable, then this is not a disorder. If the incongruence is there, dysphoria is there because of that identity, then only we can recognize them as a disordered person. So coming to the ICD-11 again, the diagnosis of gender incongruence was included in ICD-11 to preserve the access to health services, but it was moved from ICD-11 chapter on mental and behavioral disorder to the chapter on sexual health. In ICD-11, uh, the term which was used in IC10 like opposite sex, anatomic sex are abandoned, and the word which are being used as experienced gender or assigned sex to remove the binary and stigma. In ICD-11, gender identity is characterized by a marked and persistent incongruence between an individual's experienced gender and the assigned sex. You are getting the point, the marked and persistent incongruence. There is different identity, but incongruence is there. Acceptance is not there. The person is not normal with that identity, not firm with that identity, not stable with that identity. The person is incongruent. He find himself, a male is find himself as a female, but he is not happy with that. He is in discomfort. He is in incongruence. Again, the gender variant behavior and preferences alone are not basis for assigning gender identity diagnosis. So, the thing which was there in the IC10 like fetishistic transvestism and dual role transvestism disappeared in ICD-11 because these conditions involved consensual and solitary sexual activities, cause no inherent harm to self or others, and are not necessarily distressing to the individual or associated with functional impairment. What is transvestism is? Gaining the sexual gratification by wearing clothes of opposite sex. This is not the disorder of gender identity. है ना? They consider themselves as male and female, but they are gratified by the opposite sex clothing. So after ICD-11, what happens in DSM-5? This is the diagnostic criteria. I won't read it. You know. This again the criteria. So the last line, in addition, the condition must be associated with clinically significant distress and impairment. So these are the keywords: distress and impairment. In DSM-5, being transgender is not considered per se a psychiatric disorder. It is only the resultant dysphoria that justifies a diagnosis. If dysphoria is there, then the diagnosis, otherwise not. While dysphoria was chosen for the diagnostic title, the word incongruence is used for the definition in criterion A. The DSM-4 TR criterion A requests cross-gender identification. Further, in DSM-5, the criterion was modified in order to avoid a male-female dichotomy, and the expressed gender can be female, male, in between, or otherwise. Similar thing. Same thing, you know. Similarly, in DSM-5, the term transvestic has nothing to do with the gender, and disorder is part of section on paraphilias. Same idea with that ICD-11. Now, what is the guidelines of National Medical Council regarding this area? Now, you all may know that now we have a CBME based teaching module, which is competency based medical education. So they have uh, given the idea what one should learn after in the psychiatry, and as a course at the end of this course the student will be able to what they will be able to demonstrate the ability to assess the gender identity of an individual and distress caused due to the individual's own gender identity in simulated environment. This should be learned by the student. So they have changed their curriculum also. In this course, describe and understand how to discuss sexual orientation, sexual identity, gender identity, as well as intersex identity as a part of routine history taking. Further, demonstrate the ability to educate and counsel individuals or family members about intersex variations and regarding the whole part, and demonstrate knowledge that conversion therapy practice for sexual orientation or gender identity or on people with intersex variations is unethical. Describe and understand gender identity, the biological and gender binaries, rejection of gender binary, gender non-conforming, gender non-binary, androgynous and other identities. Demonstrate the ability to educate an individual and family member that gender incongruence by itself is not a disorder, does not require any clinical intervention. Any form of conversion therapy is unethical. You may find such a patient in your clinic, whether you are in the field of ops and gynae, in plastic surgery, in surgeries, or you, as a urologist, you may find such a patient in your clinic. So you must be aware of these facts. What we are now have the idea regarding this gender identity. One must be able to describe difference between gender incongruence and gender dysphoria. Discuss situations where there is role of mental health support in gender dysphoria, that is discussing with family, deciding on hormonal treatment, sex reassignment surgery, and so for the summary for this session, we now know that LGBTQIA is a legally recognized community. Section 377 has been decriminalized. Various rights are reserved under Constitution for them. The status of marriage is not provided in Indian context but recognizes live-in relationships. Gender identity is replaced by incongruence and dysphoria in classifications. ICD 11 considers child, adolescents, and adults for gender incongruence, and DSM 5 includes, but with a must requirement of distress and impairment, which is similar for both the ICD 11 and DSM 5. Incongruence means there will be a connotation of distress and impairment with it. So, in the last, thank you.